What is up, Space Pirates? This is your captain, the certifiably suave Dr. Disaster. And I'm sure that most of you know this, but just in case you didn't, the Game Awards are set to be held a little over a week from now on December 12th, and by my estimation, the favorite to win Game of the Year at the award show definitely has to be Astro Bot.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's not a bad outcome. As far as I'm concerned, the game was pretty awesome. Though, to be clear, of the 6 nominees, Black Myth Wukong would absolutely be my first choice. But I would be shocked if that game ended up winning, since the vast majority of the weight of the vote for this award comes from publications that can't stand Black Myth Wukong. This is the jury that makes up 90% of the vote. IGN is the first party listed, and they in particular went out of their way to smear the developer of Black Myth, Game Science that is, as sexist.
Man, this is some bullshit!
So, I have a hard time believing Black Myth even has a chance. So, with that said, Astro Bot is easily my second favorite outcome, but with that in mind, the powers that be in the gaming media have thrown the idea out there that they don't care for Astro Bot because it isn't political. It isn't pushing their progressive values. I covered this in a video a few months back talking about this article from Kotaku, which floated the idea that the game focused too much on fun and not enough on weird gender shit and other stuff like that.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Of course, this means that it's a game that gamers love, but now that the Game Awards is set to kick off, the media is floating this idea again, suggesting that Astro Bot is flawed because it isn't trying to preach. It isn't trying to do anything but present good, normal fun for gamers who are people that really want to escape. This article here showcases the vast difference in how these game journalists think, and it tells us why these people have no business essentially dictating to the gaming community what the game of the year is. They may attempt to tell us that it's not Black Myth or Astro Bot, but they have virtually no authority on this in the minds of true gamers.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but 2 things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and also, don't forget to follow me over on Twitter or X, or whatever you want to refer to it as these days. I keep a list on there of games lousy with wokeness pinned to the account at all times for your reference. My handle over there is Dr. Disaster 1. But anyhow, let's look at this article about Astro Bot and talk about the Game Awards. As a reminder for you, the 6 games that made the cut for the Game of the Year nominees were Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for the Elden Ring, because apparently DLC is a thing now for this award, which is a damn joke in my opinion, and then, of course, Astro Bot. Now, as I said, I'm a big fan of Black Myth Wukong, and that game absolutely should be the Game of the Year hands down in my opinion. It's gorgeous, it's fun, it's amazingly popular. There really is no other choice. but I doubt that it even has a chance to win for basically just political reasons. The developers didn't bow down to the woke collective. They didn't pay their dues, and I think the only reason that the game even made the list is because it would have been insane not to include the game considering its sales numbers, but it got added with everybody kind of just knowing that nobody in the jury was going to vote for it. I could be proven wrong, but I really doubt that Black Myth is going to win. In any event, Astro Bot is my second choice because I legitimately think that it's the second best game in the list of nominees. I don't consider Shadow of the Erd Tree a game. It's DLC, and it could win the best DLC of the year. I have no problem with that, but it doesn't belong in this list. That being said, just for the chaos of it all, I think it would be funny as hell if a DLC ended up winning the award. How badly does that speak about the games that came out in 2024 if DLC for a 2-year-old title ended up winning the whole thing? But anyhow, if we were playing it straight, and if Black Myth can't win, then I'd like to see Astro Bot take the title. And I do believe it has pretty solid odds of winning. That being said, it sure seems like the Access media is against this game because they fundamentally misunderstand gamers and the entire point of gaming in the first place. This phenomenon is on full display in this article from thegamer.com. It says, "I'm conflicted about Astro Bot as Game of the Year. I gave Astro Bot a 5 out of 5 in my review. It was the first perfect score I had ever given, and while I try not to care too much about what other people think, I was a little nervous about it. I rarely discuss my scores with other journalists, and this was no exception, so I had no idea what reception it would receive. I'm strict, some would say too strict, on what the bar is when reading other 5 out of 5 reviews, and would have wound up looking a little silly if everyone else thought it was a bland 3.5 at best." As you know by now, that was not the case. Astro Bot rocketed to one of the highest Metacritic scores a Sony game has ever seen, and is the frontrunner for Game of the Year. More to the point, I still stand by that score. Now, the novelty has worn off, and even the speedrunning updates have been dispatched. I'll still consider Astro Bot to be one of the best platformers since its golden age in the 90s, so why am I conflicted about its Game of the Year elect status? Spoiler alert, it's because she is an activist first and a gamer second, like the vast majority of people who work in this industry, sadly. But let's keep reading. There will be a lot of people who have only played one of the 6 Game of the Year nominees if we're assuming the Keeleys as the official shortlist of good games this year. She means the Game Awards when she says the Keeleys, by the way. But anyhow, in the vast majority of cases, that one game will be Astro Bot, and in the vast majority of those cases, they will have loved it. They will think it deserves Game of the Year based on that alone, and they might very well be right. Admittedly, most of those people will be the general public rather than the voting jury, but that's still 10% of the vote, and I don't doubt a lot of jury members will not have played all 6 either. It just feels like an easy win, blah blah blah. We're actually going to skip down a ways to here where she gets to her point. Everything positive I have to say about Astro Bot lies in the gameplay. I could list a bunch of fantastic levels here, and we all have our favorites, but we all agree it plays pretty well. Then there are specific parts of its genius, like the novel use of the DualSense, the sound design of Astro's feet, the PlayStation cameos, and the electric use of color. It's a very, very, very good game, but is it any more than that? And let me spell this out for you. It doesn't need to be. This is a game. Why does it need to be complicated? I feel a lot like Woody in the original Toy Story movie when Buzz Lightyear was under the delusion that he was a real space ranger. I feel like recreating that classic line when Woody emphatically says to Buzz, "You are a toy." People, we are talking about video games. Games. The first thing you should ask yourself when evaluating a game is whether or not it's fun. And if it's so fun that it gets a perfect score, well, then game, set, and match. This game is amazing. And it goes the other way too. If a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard isn't fun at all, isn't immersive, it fails on a ton of different levels, but it pushes something that isn't game related, political progressive shit, for example, well, if it does that, then it still should not qualify as a good game. You're allowed to agree with its messaging, but that doesn't make it fun, and it means that gamers will largely dislike it. But let's read a bit more. Astro Bot does leave me with a deeper feeling than Balatro, in that it makes me feel joyously like a child again, and Balatro just makes me want to play more Balatro, but there's no substance to the game beyond in the momentary enjoyment. Then the question becomes, why is that not enough? And let me just pipe in and say that it is enough. It's absolutely enough, and it's ridiculous to say otherwise. What a sad existence that this person can't just play a game and have fun with it and call that enough. But anyhow, with so many games trying to be movies, with photorealistic linear narratives, with similar and occasionally manipulative emotional beats, why would I want Astro Bot to do that? Is it not enough that an excellent platformer is an excellent platformer, that a video game excels at being a video game and not at effectively disguising itself as an art form with more prestige? And yeah, here's the thing. If you want artsy-fartsy stuff that conforms to your progressive worldview, go read a book, or look at a painting, or read one of your own shitty articles. But here in the video game spaces, this is the house that Mario built, and Sonic, and Marcus Phoenix, and Jill Valentine, and a shitload of other characters that are beloved not because they told us some deep truth, but because they gave us a bit of escape from a world that can be a bit dull and a bit rough. The fact that these game journos, and I fully believe that it's fair to judge all of them by this article, they all think this way quite clearly, but the fact that they just don't understand this basic truth is disqualifying as far as them being judges for Game of the Year. Black Myth absolutely should win Best Game, Stellar Blade would be my second choice, Space Marine 2 is number 3, and Astro Bot is number 4, considering that Black Myth probably can't win and the other two weren't even nominated. Astro Bot is the obvious choice. But I'm going to leave it there. What do you think should win Game of the Year for 2024? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and we will talk there.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.